21 million Americans are addicted to drugs or alcohol. President Trump this month called the opioid epidemic a national emergency. The cover story of September's National Geographic looks into the science of addiction and its impact on the brain's pathways. Author Fran Smith writes this: addiction remolds neural circuits to assign supreme value to cocaine or heroin or gin at the expense of other interests such as health, work, family, or life itself. Fran Smith joins us at the table to discuss. Hello, Fran. Very good to see you. I think when most people think of addicts, they don't think, you know what, they got brain issues. But you're saying the brain plays a very big role here. How?
The brain plays a huge role. Addiction causes hundreds of changes in the structure of the brain, in the chemistry of the brain, in the pathways that send nerve signals so that cells communicate with each other. And it's very complicated, but the basic essence of it is that it remaps the brain, and it causes the brain to focus on this one thing only, that object of desire, and blot out other things of interest. So I think of it kind of like a zoom lens on a camera. You're focusing on this one thing, and everything else is out of view. And at the same time, the brain changes your ability to put the lid on desire.
When did this kind of thinking start, Fran? Because back in the 70s, when the addiction was affecting the black community and the inner city community, they were just cast aside as junkies, addicts. It was seen as a moral failing. And now that it's become more pronounced in other communities, now we hear it's a disease. When did that change, and how did that change?
Well, the medical community has recognized it as a disease for a long time. Law enforcement is starting to come around. I was just in Huntington, West Virginia, which has been hit really hard, and talked with the former police chief, and he said, we are not going to arrest our way out of this problem. What really changed it, not only is the opioid epidemic has really opened up people's eyes to the problem, but the technology. Back in the 70s, when heroin was a real problem in the inner cities, we didn't have brain scanners. Nobody knew what was going on inside the brain.
And given that, do you think we'll see an addiction vaccine in our lifetime?
Well, there is work on an addiction vaccine. There have been a number of studies. There have been some promising results, but nothing immediately on the horizon.
But some of the things that have been helpful include cognitive therapy, right? How can we retrain the brain after being addicted to drugs or alcohol?
Right. Cognitive therapy has shown really great effects for lots of people, and it really trains people how to think differently about drugs and alcohol. And you can see in brain scanning studies that it really does begin to change how those circuits are operating, rewiring the brain in essence.
Are some people more prone to addiction than others?
There are genetic aspects to addiction. Nobody has identified a gene or an addictive personality. One thing that we know is that adolescents are really vulnerable, and that so many people who have addiction later in life really began misusing drugs or alcohol as teens or young adults.
The adolescent brain is still very, very vulnerable. It's not fully formed.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, your article is very, very good. It's very well done. A lot of good information there. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Fran Smith.